8, 4, 6.
Here's a short tutorial on how to make the Makey coded lockbox. This has been done a million times, but I really just wanted to show this one because it's a very simple design that works really well. First, we'll learn how to make the box, and then we'll show the physical coding of the box. So first thing we do is we grab a bunch of these brad pins. These are the great things because you can separate them, and then you can just add them to pretty much anything. So what I've done is I printed off a picture of a coded box, and when you open it up, you can see that the brads are right underneath, and they're very easy to clip onto. So the first thing you have to do is load up your Makey with alligator clips and make sure that you're connecting them to the proper one. So if I'm going to the 2 here, I want to make sure I take one of my alligator clips and I'm going to connect it to the 2. So we simply open up that and we just clip it on like that. So you're just going to wire up your entire box. Remember, the colors don't matter. The colors are just really important, so then you remember where you are clicking everything in. Now, one thing don't forget is on the Makey, you also need to clip something in to the earth wire. So I'm going to use this one, my little star key that's on the bottom. I'm going to clip that one there. And then simply you're going to hook your Makey up to those designated wires. And don't forget that ground wire has to go anywhere along the bottom to touch that earth to make contact. So if I just did this, my Makey would be good to go. But as a little bonus on my box, you might have noticed that I put on a ping pong ball. And underneath that ping pong ball is actually an LED light that I put in there. So you can see the little wee legs of the LED light. So to use the LED light, I use these specialty alligator clips that are jumper wired as well, except you can even use just jumper wires and then attach alligator clips onto them. If you flip the Makey over, you're going to have this little point here for the outputs. So for the outputs, there's one that looks like a keyboard, which is an any key. So when you touch any key on the Makey, it's going to send an impulse to put that LED light on. Then you just have to make sure, just like the other wires, you have to have a contact point that goes into the earth, and that's along the bottom of the Makey here. So there we are, we're all wired up. So my Makey is going to match with the wires up here. Then I simply hook up the wire to the Makey to add power, and I like to put it through a little hidden area, maybe the top, maybe the bottom, and I hook the USB in through there. And now, when you're ready, you just plug that USB wire, the other end, right into your computer, and then you should see it light up with some power. And then you can close the box and you're ready to go. Now that you've made the physical box, let's see how to program this in Scratch. Let's go into Scratch, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of poor Scratch there. Now here's the sneaky part. I like to hide my things in the actual background. So when I go upload my background, usually I'll take a picture of the lockbox because it just makes it easier to explain through the program. So I'll click on the lockbox and then I'll just resize it so it fits my screen exactly how it is. So that's pretty perfect for me. Then I'll go upload another background or even choose a background. And this will be where my code's actually going to appear and represent once they open the lock. So whatever your storyline is, this is how you can do that. So let's go back to the lockbox though, because that's what the students are going to see when they first go in. So now let's go to coding. So we are going to add some code to this background, but it is time to add a sprite of some kind. I'm just going to actually draw my own. And I'll often do the sprite just as a shape because I want to put this over here because always a good reminder is that when they use Makeys, they have to hold down the earth key. So what I usually say is put one finger on the star and then I'll highlight the star when it comes in. Let's create that secret code now. First we're going to need is of course the green flag to activate whatever it is. And don't forget, you can change this up however you want. If you want sounds, add all those, have some fun with it. But what we need for the code to work is actually need to go to variables. So we're going to make a variable. And I'm just going to simply call this code, nice and simple. Now, one nice thing is when you bring over the code block, you can set the code to whatever you want. And what I didn't even know is you can actually write words in here and leave a space between the words. So my code is going to be up, down, left, right. because these represent some of the things we can press on the Makey. You could also use WASD-FG if you want. There's lots of options, but that's going to be my code. Now, of course, you want to take the code off so it doesn't show up on your screen, but for them to activate, here's what we need to do. We're going to go down to our extensions down below, and we're going to go click on the Makey extension. They have this awesome button that's called when left up right is pressed in order. So you can choose lots of different things. You could even design the code right after that. But because this is kind of my own code, if I go back to variables, I can actually take the variable code and drop it directly into the Makey extension. So this will activate the code. So the students put their finger on the box and they do up, down, left, right. Now don't forget, this code is just representing the physical buttons and touch points on a Makey. So even though this says up, down, left, right, however you attach your alligator clips, those are the numbers you'll use. So the students will come in and they might say, let's say I do 2, 8, 4, 6 for up, down, left, right. Just make sure those alligator wires are attached to the right buttons, and it doesn't matter what button you assign to, just make sure they coordinate with the Makey like you saw in the box. Now, here's how they kind of get the clue, and this is how I like to kind of hide things around on my page a little bit. When they enter the correct code, what I like to do is I broadcast a message that will take them to a new backdrop that reveals all the fun stuff. So I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to grab broadcast message 1. You can change this to whatever you want. Then I'm going to go click on my backdrop. So what people don't realize sometimes is you can actually code your backdrop to do things too. So this is kind of a fun way to hide things, is don't forget, just like sprites have costumes, we have different backdrops. So I've got my Lockbox and then I got my Arctic one. So what I'm going to do for the code here is when I receive that message, let's say I'm going to switch to my other backdrop. So I'm going to switch to the Arctic. And it's the Arctic backdrop that might have a lot of fun things reveal. So I could always go back and click on my Arctic, and who knows, maybe I'm just going to write the code in here. And that could be the code to one of the locks I have to open, whatever it is you want to do. But the only thing we do have to remember when we go to the code is that it's going to reveal everything. So it's awfully important that when we start a program, and this can be on the sprite or the backdrop, we have to make sure that it's going to switch to the right backdrop. So when we start our whole program, make sure we switch it to the original one. We don't want this to show. The other thing we can do too is, it looks kind of odd to have this square on the Arctic. And remember, this is all aesthetic. You can or cannot do this. I'm just going to hide this after I broadcast that message. But make sure you show it when you do this. Remember, opposites always when we code. So now when I play this, you can see it's just a lockbox. This is where I like to use the text-to-speech where I can say it. I'll actually write it up here too because I like to have multimodal devices when students are listening. But it's basically waiting for me to actually add anything. So on the lockbox, I would hold it down and then I would just click and it reveals that. Now, here's the other thing I like to add because sometimes it's hard to tell if you're clicking the right things. So, and again, this is more for fun, but I like to do this. If I go grab an event, I grab when the space key is pressed, and I just choose any key. And then I'm going to attach a sound to that. And then you can find whatever sound you want. I'll use the little beeping one that I had. So now whenever I click something, at least you kind of get that little positive reinforcement that you're at least clicking some buttons. And then when I try it again, you can go in and there it is. Have more music playing, have rewards, all those fun things. But that's how your lockbox works with the Makey. Very simple code. The tutorial is actually longer than it needs to be to show you the code. And enjoy playing with your Makey lockbox. So now when you physically touch this, light goes on, and boom,